Hey everybody, it's Chris Kirkpatrick with Life 180, and I'm here with my buddy and business partner and friend and wealth coach and
little brother,
just all that stuff. Caleb Williams with Better Wealth, and this one we're going to talk about number 8 for the perils of your 401k. And number 8 is there's a serious lack of financial education. There is no financial education when it comes to just putting your money in a 401k and just hoping it's going to grow. Yeah. One of the things that I always would tell people, 6-7 years ago when I was working with people, when I was actually in the industry, and looking over their finances, and at that point in time we were coming out of the Great Recession, as we were doing that. And a lot of people were still like really fresh, right? It was, the pain was really real of that 60% loss, that 55% loss. And it's really hard because if you knew me, and Caleb does, like, I'm a pretty empathetic person. Like, I really care about people. I want to see people
you truly do
succeed. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm also one of those people that is like very high on the self-accountability level. Yeah. And so I feel like people need to take accountability for the decisions that they make in life. Yeah. And so I have a really hard time with this concept of just putting your money into a 401k and letting it sit and not like educating yourself, right? It's too often, for instance, that like I talk to people, and I still talk to people every single day, and you probably talk to people a lot of the same, where they think they're doing what they need to do because they're saving maybe 10% in their 401k. They're getting a company match to a certain extent for at least a portion of that. And they feel like that's my retirement. Between that and Social Security, I'll be good, right? It's another conversation, but like they feel that way. But then if you look at the rest of their financial house, it's a complete mess, right? Like they're in debt. They got $40,000 in credit card debt that they're paying 19%, 20% interest on, but but they're earning 7% on their 401k contributions, or 6% or 8%, even if it's 10%. Right? Like when you look at that, at the math, it doesn't make any sense. And so the problem with just relying on the 401k is it's the simple way. It's almost like the stupid way out. Like I don't know how
I feel like there's a T-shirt that needs to be made. Like,
I don't know a way to say it. Because, I'm not calling anybody stupid, right? Like that's not the purpose. But it's the lazy way out. That's what it is, right? It's the lazy way out, because you're like, don't fool yourself into thinking you're doing what you need to do just because you're putting enough into your 401k, right? Because
I think there's a sense of security when everyone else is doing it.
100%.
As Jeremy on our team would say, it's the sheeple way.
Okay. So I wasn't planning on doing this video. Right? But let's educate people on the distribution. Okay. Pull up that calculator.
All right, let's hear.
Okay?
So let's.
Because I'm gonna let you take over the computer here for a second. Because here's the deal. And as he's pulling this up, I'll talk about this. Most people are sheep, right? They just are. And I don't know if you know that expression. You can take one sheep and bring it somewhere, and if a sheep goes somewhere, the rest of the herd's going to follow, right? And that's how humans are for the most part. Somebody does something, other people see it, and they think it's the norm, and they're just going to follow, and they're going to do it, and they're not going to know why. They're not going to ask why. They're just going to do it because if everybody else is doing it, it's got to be the right way. And what I'm going to show you here, what Caleb's going to go through on the computer, is actually a tool that Vanguard has. Is it?
Yeah. It's the Vanguard nest egg, and so essentially what this is. When we talk about results and what why are you saving in a 401k? Why are you saving and investing to begin with? And it's usually because you want some kind of money in the future. Now, there's other videos that Chris has about better ways to actually get cash flow. I would say a 401k rate's very low, and one of probably the biggest reasons I'm anti 401k is what I'm about to show you. Is you're trying to get a stream of income, but here's the truth as it relates to the 401k. Do you want to break down what Monte Carlo is and what sequence risk is?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, I'm going to keep it really, really simple for this terms. If you haven't, just Google Monte Carlo simulation and or like Monte Carlo methodology, and it'll explain if you're a really analytical person, it will break down how the formula works, how they come to the formula. Once upon a time, Monte Carlo formula is basically the formula that all certified financial planners utilize to say, okay, how long will your money last for life with a certain percentage, at a certain percentage.
So we talk about safe withdrawal rates.
Yes.
And essentially, it used to be the 4% rule. So to make this simple, if you had $1 million in your account, you could take 4% out, and you would have enough money, and you could pass on your $1 million to the next generation, and that was it. But as interest rates get lower, as there's been more volatility, we've actually had to reduce that. And this calculator, that Vanguard, it's a third-party calculator. It just shows, we just run simulations, and it shows you the chance of running out of money over 30 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, let's say someone has $1 million.
I want to say something before you do this. Now, for $1 million, and I just want to be really clear with this. For most people to get $1 million inside of 401k after fees and taxes, you're going to have to be making, if you work for 30 years, making $100,000, or work for 40 years, making $100,000.
Yep.
Like, let's assume that's the average. If you work some less at the beginning and some more later, and you're contributing 10%, that means you contribute $400,000, and you may get lucky enough.
Yeah.
You may get lucky enough to have $1 million
I've
if you
seen
contribute.
a couple people that have $1 million, but when I worked at the bank and worked with most people, no one has a fraction.
But I'm bringing this up for the point that to get $1 million, you probably need to average $100,000 and contribute 10% in your life to get there. So bring that into perspective as you're talking about the amounts that you need to keep your. Because don't forget, when you retire, do you want to take a step back in life?
Yeah.
No, nobody wants. You want to maintain your standard of living.
Yeah.
So
what I'm gonna do is we're looking out over 30 years. Let's assume you have $1 million, which you probably don't, and then we're gonna say, let's say you take 5% out. So we're taking a big distribution. I'm gonna run this simulation, lots of examples, and this says you have a 76% chance of at age 30 have some kind of money.
That's at year 30.
At year 30.
I
said age.
So if you retire if you retire at 65, then at 95, you have a chance of
there's a 14% chance that you're out of money completely.
Right.
Okay. Now why is that? Because
24% chance.
Correct. Yeah.
24%
chance. Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we want to do is let's change this 5% to 4%. And see how it.
No, that's how much. That's the money. That's the money that you're getting.
Oh yeah, but we're changing from. So right now, it's a 4% savings. Now you have a 91% chance of having some kind of money at the age of retirement.
Gotcha.
Or at the end of 30 years. So this is just a really good way to run the numbers. What we really have to get down to is about 3.
It'll be 28,000. I think that's 2.8.
2.8%. And if we run that, you have a 99% chance, which is, I mean, it's almost impossible to get 100%, but a 99% chance that you'll have some kind of money at retirement. Or no, I keep on saying retirement because I think of retirement
at 95.
Death.
30 years. That's a 99% chance that 30 years after you start retirement that you're going to have money. Now, I just want to say a point to that is like a lot of people, if you retire at 65 or 60, like thinking about living to 90 or 95, you may kind of like just like brush that one off and not think about it. But I can tell you, we hear horror stories all the time of people having to take their parents in and reducing quality of life. And this is the part to me, it's people who are successful their whole life, who contributed, who helped their families, and like should be proud about the life they lived and leave a good legacy. They lose their dignity.
Well, and what we're not saying is if to have $1 million and only spend 28, and that's taxable. This is not happening. What's ended up happening is people are spending $50,000, $60,000 and just running out of money completely. And why? Because the 401k may be a good vehicle for, on paper, looking like it's growing in value, but it's really a terrible vehicle as it relates to taking income out because of the taxes, because of the losses, and because of our hands are tied as it relates to how much we can spend.
Well, think about this. Most people don't think about what inflation does to them during retirement. Because when you retire, right, inflation is eroding the value of your money. It just happens every year. So when you retire 30 years later, if you need $100,000 at retirement, 30 years, you're going to need $200,000 for the same, at least $200,000 for the same quality of life. So if you retire with them, like if you think like right now, if you're 30 years old and you think you need $1 million at retirement, I promise you need $2 million. At least, like that's bare minimum. So So like, and let's say you need $100,000 at retirement. Let's assume for a year of income to be comfortable, to not have to take a step backward in life, right? Now, I know a lot of people will argue and say, I don't need that much because my house is going to be paid off and this and that. But here's the problem. When you retire, what days of the week do you spend the most money? Saturday and Sunday. It's the weekend. You have things to do. You want to go have fun. You don't want to live a confined life.
Yep.
You may get rid of your mortgage payment, but I promise you, you're gonna more than make up for that with the extra trips, trips to see the grandkids, the vacation, the extra bowling league, like whatever you do, you're gonna spend the money. I promise. Otherwise, you're gonna be thinking about, like, I don't want you to ever have to think about like having to restrict yourself, right? You should be able to have fun. And so if you think you have Social Security that pays, like if you want 100,000, what are you gonna get for Social Security? 2,500 a month, something like that. Yeah. So okay, let's call it 30,000 a year. You're still gonna need $70,000 of income. So move that number to 70,000 for me.
Oh, I mean, it's gonna be.
I know. I want to see it. We haven't done this ahead of time, by the way. I told you.
Yeah, this is.
I told you at the beginning of this, we're winging this whole thing because we want this just to be real and authentic. Look at this. So if you have to take out, and this, by the way, this does not count for inflation. If you retire at 60, and by the time you're 75, if you need 100,000 at 60, by the time you're 75, you're going to need 140,000, right? Yeah. Just to maintain that same standard of living. So 70, this is not out of control at all. This is not ridiculous. You have a 36% chance of having money. That means you have a 74% chance of being completely flat broke 30 years into retirement. No legacy. You may be living
or even before.
Or even before. I mean, that's like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Understand what result you want and understand how coming down the mountain can help you. And when we talk about financial education, Robert Kiyosaki,
awesome.
the best known author of Rich Dad
Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant.
He talks about savers being losers. And essentially it's off of this mentality. You give up control of your money, you have some other entity have it growing, you don't really, the government can, there's so many things that can go after it, but then when you get your money out, the dollars are worth less, and you can't even get a fraction of what you thought you could get.
People don't understand the negative power of inflation in your life.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, and when you take inflation and then you compound it on losses and taxation and everything, it's just, you're fighting against so many things that most people don't think about, that it's really hard. And so, this peril number 8 is a lack of financial education inside of your 401k when you use it and you just rely on it and you don't really think critically about why you're doing it, what you want to happen, what legacy you want to leave, what you want your retirement to look like what you want the next generation to be able to do. You're going to hit so many phases of life. I could tell you as a father of 3 now that as I've gone through different phases at the early stages, my oldest kid is 8 years old right now at the time of this video, filming it, and my youngest is 18 months. And I feel like my oldest was just born, and the phases that we've gone through then, I can only imagine the different phases that I'm going to go through over the next 40 years. Yeah. I'm not even going to pretend to know to think that I'm going to understand that. But what I am going to know is that I'm going to prepare myself that I can be mobile and agile and in control, that I can adjust when necessary.
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
So that's why we're so passionate about this. So anyway, that's peril number 8. If you haven't done it yet, you need to go get this book. Click the link below. It's a great book. Everybody read it. Get an extra one for your teenage kid if you have a kid, because they should read it while they can, if they focus on that sort of thing. But anyway, that's it. All the links are below. If you want help, if you want to talk to somebody on Caleb's team, you want to get that book. I'm going to have actually a PDF for all these perils that you can download and get. There's going to be a link in the comments below that people can get that. That's going to be awesome. We just decided to do that between the last video. That's pretty fun. It's just about service and just trying to get the information out there. Maybe you don't have time to spend,
also,
going through all these videos.
Also, if you have videos that you want us to make, let us know. I'm serious.
I love it.
This is a lot of fun.
I love it. Me too. I have fun doing this. So hopefully you could tell that. So anyway, that is peril number 8. Peril number 9 coming up next, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.